Voice of the Sea, learning from experts across the ocean.
Welcome to Voice of the Sea. In this episode, Kanisa dives the world-famous reefs of Palau, considered to be one of the best scuba destinations in the world, and meets underwater expert videographer Nick Martorano. Nick works with a large dive operator, filming and teaching his craft to others. He tells us what it's like diving in Palau at different times of the year, and also what diving is like in different parts of the world.
Earlier in the week, I'd gone scuba diving with a major dive operator in Palau, renting equipment and taking a boat ride through the rock islands to the outer reefs. I jumped in the water with my consumer camera equipment and did my best to document the amazing biodiversity. I was impressed with the sheer amount of wildlife and also the many types of large predators, from bumphead wrasse to octopuses to sharks. I was not disappointed. But after looking at the video footage from my camera and comparing it to Nick's beautiful videos playing in the gift shop, I decided I needed to talk to a professional. Headed off to learn more about the art, science, and career of an underwater videographer. You're a professional underwater videographer.
Since I was a kid, I was interested in marine biology, fish, the ocean, and I also was interested in cameras. My dad used to be an amateur photographer, so I grew up around cameras, and he also had a passion for fish. So I grew up around fish tanks and all kinds of related stuff in the house. For the past 15 years, I've been shooting as an underwater videographer in several parts of the world. Right now, I'm here in Palau.
You talked about filming some of the people that come here on vacation and capturing their dives for them, but I imagine that a lot of your footage goes to folks that might not ever put their head underwater.
That's right. That's right. And again, the idea is that we're showing other people, whether it's through documentaries or, nowadays, of course, particularly the young kids with online content, we're able to show the ocean the way it is. Nothing is set up or highly choreographed when we're shooting. It's all shot whatever we're encountering during that day. And the nice thing also of being able to do this on a daily basis is that I'm also able to see and film and then show the natural changes that occur in the ocean as a function of different seasons.
Oh, wow.
For example, here in Palau, what you have in March, there's a lot of mating behavior of all the sharks. Mm-hmm. In January and February, you have huge schools of Moorish idols and orange spine unicorn fish. And because of this huge quantity of small fish, then the sharks come in and they prey on those species. And then everything becomes kind of nice and quiet and kind of silent a little bit a few months later. It's kind of the season where the ocean is kind of taking a break a little bit, and then it explodes again with life back in November. So if you're diving regularly, you get to see this, which you would not otherwise be able to see if you're just coming, and diving for just a couple of days or even a couple of weeks. So being able to film that and then show it in kind of this, kind of longitudinal fashion, so to say, is priceless. All of us are kind of fascinated with technology, but I think the most important thing when you're shooting or when you're down there in the ocean is to be able to kind of take your time, smell the roses, look and pay attention, because oftentimes we look but we don't see. So for example, having a good background in marine biology, fish behavior is very important, or it really helps a lot in allowing us to really focus our attention and get the shots that we want, that will really kind of bring out the life in what it is that we're filming or taking pictures of.
Do you ever find yourself relying or looking back to your background in psychology?
At the end of the day, it's all about behavior, right?
Right.
Whether it's human behavior or animal behavior, there's a lot of similarities. And so it's helped me a lot when I'm dealing with, a situation like, for example, there's some predation behavior going on, some, action and reaction, some behavioral stuff that we see in the ocean, whether we're dealing with fish or, marine mammals, or kids or adults. There's a lot of similarities.
And so do you work then with some of the scientific researchers or the conservation folks to share with them the knowledge that you gain through your video camera?
Yes, it's happened before that research organizations will contact me, and I can show them what I have, whether it's footage of mantas or sharks or spawning aggregations of groupers or bumpet parrotfish. And the nice thing about doing this on a daily basis is that I actually have a tally that will tell you exactly when a certain shot was taken, what year, what time, and so you can really help scientists in coming up with, again, for example, like a longitudinal study or whatever it is that they're looking into. Or sometimes they, actually ask me to go out with them, with a team of researchers, and dive with them and film whatever they're interested in capturing on video during that day or that week or that month. One of my favorite things that I like to film is kind of small stuff, all the macro critters, blennies, gobies, nudibranchs, and there's a whole kind of neighborhood of goofy characters, right, when you're filming them, and you really see each of them has their own personality. One of the things that marine biology, like zoology and related sciences, they typically tend to do is that they lump together all different kind of individuals belonging to the same species, and the assumption is that they're all going to behave the same way. Well, not really. If you're looking really closely and you're paying a lot of attention, you see that each member of the same family, each individual has slightly different ways of doing something, which brings up the idea of, well, is it learned behavior, right? Is it innate? Is it a combination? And also the whether it's the facial features or the features of their body may slightly be different. And so it's very interesting. In that sense, my background in psychology, which highlights the individuality of things, really comes handy.
You mentioned that you've done your profession, you've been a videographer in many different environments, many different locations.
Sure.
Can you tell me anything that about the comparison between places that you've been?
Well, oftentimes people ask me, it goes back to something that a lot of people ask me, like, well, where's the best place to shoot or where's the best place to dive? It really depends what you want to see. It's like, if I were to ask you, well, what's the best food in New York City? Well, it depends what kind of mood you're in. You want to eat Italian or Turkish or Indian or Thai, and it's the same thing with the ocean. So having said that, if you want to look and dive with, and film big stuff, big pelagics, certainly, Palau is a great place for sharks and mantas. You have Cocos Island off the coast of Costa Rica, which has big schools of hammerhead sharks, whale sharks. Then you have Galapagos, which has big schools of Galapagos sharks, hammerheads, whale sharks. But if you like the small stuff, nudibranchs, pygmy seahorses, pipefish, all the crazy, goofy little things, then Indonesia is very good. Philippines is outstanding. So it really depends on what your interest is, and then based on that, then there's so many places, and not to mention, of course, cold water diving. A lot of people, kind of don't like cold water, but if you have a dry suit, that really opens up an entire, half of the world almost is, cold water. I dove for many, many years California coast, and I have to say, on a good day, California coast is terrific with the kelp forest and all its inhabitants, big schools of all kinds of fish. Then you have the pinnipeds, and sea lions and harbor seals, and That's priceless. And really the kelp for it, it'll add a third dimension, the vertical dimension that you just don't find in clear tropical water.
The Curriculum Research and Development Group in the College of Education at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. CRDG's training roots go back over 40 years. Through professional development programs, curriculum workshops, research on teaching methodology, individualized school and district training, and so much more. The Curriculum Research and Development Group, improving schools, improving education. CRDG.
You're watching Voice of the Sea. Do you have any advice for young students who maybe see you in your career choice and want to pursue the same type of avenue?
I would say the most important thing is if you are passionate about the ocean, if you love the ocean, you really have to be crazy about the ocean and marine life. Because the obstacles that are going to be placed in front of you there'll be a lot of them, let me put it this way. But if you have the drive, if you have the determination, the persistence, and it's really all back to, if you love the ocean, you will be able to succeed. You may have to change some of the ways you're thinking about priorities. Things will not land in your lap right away. You have to work hard. But for me, there's just nothing like being out there in the big blue filming marine life, whatever it is, from the a large shark to a manta ray to a itty bitty little nudibranch. Knowing that in some way I am making a difference by educating viewers and people at large about the ocean and the marine critters that are down there.
Can we maybe go inside the office and take a look at some of the gear that you use to do your job?
Yeah, come in, I'll show you around.
Great.
Thanks.
So this is the primary cameras that you shoot on a daily basis?
This is the Big Mama, yeah, that's the daily. This camera has about 3,000 dives on it.
Wow.
Still works flawlessly. Okay, so one of the things that, of course, you have to have when you're shooting underwater is a camera. There's all kinds of models out there. A lot of people, when they're shooting underwater, they use Sony cameras. The main reason is that most housings are made for Sony cameras, but there are housings also for Canon cameras and others. So, this is a Sony Z1U high definition camera, and it is that the camera is attached to a tray. The tray will slide inside the underwater housing, which is made of aluminum, and it's connected to the handles of the housing via basically an infrared beam, and also some mechanical buttons that you press to access certain functions, like being able to manipulate your iris, exposure, shutter speed, and other things. And then once you're all set up here, then you just close with the backplate. And
that has an O-ring on it to prevent...
It's actually a double O-ring, so that way you're maximizes the chances that everything will go well. And in 15 years of shooting, I never had a flood, so
wow,
that's good. Again, one of the things that you need to learn in underwater imaging, whether it's working with pictures or video, is you have to be very mindful of every little thing you're doing, because 99% of the times, whenever there's a flood or something similar to that, it's user error. Maybe you were distracted and some dirt kind of ended up on the O-ring, or if you have long hair, clearly it's not my case, here's a classic thing that will cause a leak, right? Because it sits on top of an O-ring and then that O-ring will not seal perfectly. So, but once you get into a routine on how you do things and this kind of things, then it becomes relatively easy as long as you're focused. And that's one of the things that I teach my students. I have students that learn how to take pictures underwater with me, or underwater video with me. At the end of the day, it's they both share the idea that you have to be present. You cannot set your gear up, be on a boat, and of course being underwater unless you are 150% present. And that assumes, of course, also that you have to be proficient with your diving skills. So this is not something that a novice diver would do. They would quickly go into what's called task overload. So ideally you want to have, 30, 40, 50 dives under your belt before you take on a hobby or, eventually maybe, who knows, a profession like this. Because diving, and scuba diving in particular, should become second nature. Then and only then, shooting underwater will become really a lot of fun. A housing like this, or most housings, will feature, the body itself, and then you have what's called the port, which is a fancy name for a lens, or a piece of glass in front of the camera's own lens. There's different sizes for different lenses. It gets very complicated, but it is that everything else being equal, typically a bigger camera, and therefore a bigger housing, will deliver a better picture because it'll be able to grab more light. And particularly down there, if you're down at 60 or 80 or 100 feet, where light becomes an issue, then having a bigger housing and a bigger lens will deliver a better, crisper, clearer picture.
Do you use a light with your video camera while you're shooting?
With a camera like this, because it's got a large lens, 95% of the times I don't need lights. I use lights mainly if I shoot macro critters to increase the depth of field.
And those would be really tiny things.
Tiny things like, this could be some nudibranchs or pipefish or maybe the polyps on a coral. And because you're dealing with something very small, the area within which things are in focus is also very, very short. By increasing the amount of light, you're stretching that depth of field. Another example of shooting with light would be if you are shooting in a cave, of which we have several here in Palau. So, with stalactites and stalagmites, just terrific stuff, but you have to have light in order to be able to really bring out the beauty of it all.
Sure. Exploring Our Fluid Earth is a dynamic curriculum developed by the University of Hawaii's Curriculum Research and Development Group, teaching ocean science concepts through the disciplines of physics, chemistry, biology, and ecology. Exploring Our Fluid Earth is now available freely online. Find out more at exploringourfluidearth.org.
We're back with more from underwater videographer Nick Martorano.
I imagine that, sometimes when you have all the scuba gear on and the mask and the tank and the suit and you're trying to navigate a dive, that sometimes the film that you take of the people diving here, they might go home and actually see things on your video that they didn't even see while they were out there with you.
That's a classic comment. I mean, most of the times people say, God, I don't remember that fish, or gee, those colors. Again, because, and this is about photography and imaging in general, the idea is that you're trying to bring out, whether it's the details of the marine life that you're taking pictures of or video of, or the behavior in a way that really pops. And that's not the way people look at marine life when they're diving. Typically when we dive, we're looking down, right? And if you try to take shots looking down at whatever it is that is down there, it's not gonna look good. You have to make it look good, for example, by having blue water in the background. And that alone will make your fish really pop and really stand out a lot more. And that's when the customer or the client will say, wow, I don't remember seeing those colors. Okay, so, it's about how you present it. And at the same time, when you're filming, it's also important to, from time to time, because it's like you were kind of hinting at, it's very easy to get caught up in the technicalities of it all. The scuba gear and the camera, and your brain is going, a million miles a second because there's so many things that you have to think about. But from time to time, it's important to kind of slow down, take those 30 seconds to kind of smell the roses and say, okay, I'm here in the ocean. This is the main reason I'm doing this. Otherwise, it just becomes like another job. But if you take the time to pay attention here and there, the ocean will speak to you, and that's priceless.
And then is this your viewfinder,
Yeah,
the area where
I
you'll
have a
be able to
viewfinder
see?
here on top. I have a viewfinder in the back. I have another one that I can mount. It is that you want to have different ways of being able to take that shot.
I see.
So sometimes you have to shoot vertically, right? Maybe for a nice kind of silhouette of a manta ray, and behind the manta ray there's the sunball. So it helps to have a viewfinder like this, so that all you have to do is to hold the housing vertically and you just look this way. But if I have to shoot like a small little critter down in a little hole, then I can put my camera, for example, on a tripod and then use the housing's built-in viewfinder and kind of stick my eye in there and see what's going on. So there is no set it and forget it. You really have to be flexible because, again, what's down there in the ocean, you have to prepare. Be prepared for the manta ray 1 minute and then the next minute for a couple of great nudibranchs. And a housing like this and many others will allow you to get the shots because they're built with flexibility in mind.
And then you have some smaller cameras here
some of
as
the
well?
housings that I have here are, for example, housings that some of my students would use. Clearly, if you're new to this hobby, you don't want to get in the water with something so big. The whole system here with lights and all is about 40 pounds.
Oh my goodness.
So it's not light. It's a lot easier and less daunting to go in the water as a new student, beginner or intermediate, with a small housing, which it still gives you a lot of features, but it's not overwhelming. So it helps you have a more compact system.
And then, so as we're talking about equipment, you have the camera equipment, but of course you need more than that to be able to go in the water and take your pictures.
That's right. We mentioned briefly the importance of being familiar with scuba. You have to be scuba certified, and of course, so in my case, I'm affiliated here in Palau with Sam's Tours, which is a terrific dive operator, and so they take care of all the logistics, the boats, the dive guides, lunches and everything, so that I don't have to worry about that, or the guest or the client or the customers that are, for example, asking me to film them. They don't need to worry about that. All they have to do, they help on the boat, I'm there filming them, and when we come back I just show the footage, everybody's happy, and that really brings home some terrific memories of Palau and the ocean in general.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks for watching Voice of the Sea.
The University of Hawaii Sea Grant College Program, helping coastal communities of Hawaii and the Pacific through research, education, and outreach. Serving the community, from elementary to graduate students. Hawaii Sea Grant.